Rivalries are the lifeblood of hockey.
The volume level in the building definitely goes up.
I love going into hostile territory.
Rivalry, pure and simple, is hatred.
The battles were fierce.
Who was going to wear the crown of New York?
Don't really like them.
It has broken out wild here, and the bench is empty.
Rangers Islanders, that's my idea of a rivalry.
The Dennis Potvin that goes after an Ulf Nielsen.
I would not blame Dennis Potvin for that one.
The Battle of New York, the Rangers and the Islanders.
New York, New York. They say it's the city that never sleeps. And for their sports teams, the cheering, it never stops. It's a sprawling metropolis where the establishment historically competes against the new kids on the block, on the fields of play, and on the back pages of the tabloids, where traditional teams like the Giants and the Yankees were kings of the hill, until newcomers like the Jets and the Mets captured the hearts of New York fans. And then there are the New York Rangers, a New York institution on ice since 1926, who gained instant notoriety in the Roaring '20s.
These Rangers were a crazy bunch of gallivanting guys. They would go out at night with showgirls, and they really became a fabric of the New York nightlife.
The Rangers rewarded their loyal faithful with 3 Stanley Cups, the last one taking place in 1940. Over the next 32 years, New York would endure a Stanley Cup drought, losing twice in the finals, first in 1950 to Detroit, and then in 1972 to the Boston Bruins. But the following season, change was in store for the Broadway Blue Shirts and the entire New York area. Trying to take advantage of the nation's largest metropolitan population, the upstart World Hockey Association planned to locate a team, the New York Raiders, at the new Nassau Coliseum on Long Island. The NHL's response? They introduced 2 new teams, one in Atlanta, the other on Long Island. Suddenly, New York had 2 NHL teams within 30 miles of each other. But the Islanders, as they were to become, paid a price for their location and their proximity to their big city neighbors.
The Islanders started life behind the 8 ball because they were moving into Rangers country. So they had to pay an indemnification, $4 million, a territorial fee.
Islanders owner Roy Bowe was poorer but wiser by naming Bill Torrey as the club's first general manager. Torrey's challenge? Gaining a foothold against the team that dominated the area's hockey landscape.
At that time, the New York Rangers, if they weren't the best team in the league, certainly they were one of the 2 best teams. Along come the island upstarts, and we had an expansion team.
You've got generations of Ranger fans, and along come these new guys in '72, and they're abysmal their first year. Just the laughingstock of the league.
I remember that year how many cities we went into, and I kept reading about here come the hapless New York Islanders. Kind of gets in your craw a little bit.
The Islanders would win just 12 games in their inaugural season of 1972-73, struggling to create an identity in Rangers country, right in their own backyard of Nassau County.
There was a sort of amateur quality to the whole operation, and it was in the middle of nowhere. It was in a place called Uniondale.
I remember as a kid going in there in '72, '73, because everybody in my neighborhood in Astoria couldn't get Rangers tickets, so we'd go to the Ranger-Islander games. It was all Rangers fans.
The Islanders' futility earned them the right to select Dennis Potvin, the first pick of the 1973 amateur draft.
He was a man amongst boys in junior. He was clearly the right guy to build a franchise around.
Denny Potvin came in, was big, strong. He was hard-nosed. He hit, right? And he could hurt you.
He didn't take crap from anybody. I never had been around any player, let alone a rookie, who just dominated things the way he had.
Potvin gave the Islanders credibility and toughness, and in his second season, a playoff berth, where his team would challenge for New York bragging rights.
This was classic. You had the New York Rangers, who had been around for 50 years, and you had the Islanders who had been around for 3 years.
In a best-of-3 format, the 2 teams would need a decisive Game 3 on April 11th, 1975 at Madison Square Garden.
That was about as loud
as I have ever heard the Garden.
The third game in the Garden, I mean, it was as loud as I've ever, seen a building.
It goes into overtime.
They dropped the puck, they shot the puck in our zone, and Eddie Westfall went into the corner, and a couple of our guys, a little miscommunication.
I was just tightening up my skates, and then I heard the roar, and I looked up.
In front, score! It's over. Parisi. That didn't take long, and the Islanders are going wild.
It was shocking. It was absolutely shocking.
And the crowd is practically stunned.
I remember going in and just sitting in the dressing room. Can't believe our season's over.
There goes Emil Francis congratulating Al Arbor.
J.P. Parisi's overtime goal propelled one franchise, but crushed another.
I pretty well wasn't going too far out of the house the next couple of days because I'd hear it from the guy in the supermarket, I'd hear it from the guys at the gas station. They were, what's wrong with you guys? So that was the beginning of the end of the New York Rangers.
That goal sort of sent a neon light message that it's a completely new era. And it's not going to be the way you think it is New York anymore.
When I started with the Rangers, we practiced on the south shore of Long Island. And there was a clear line. I think it was the Jones Beach Bridge that got you into Islanders, and you never went across there because that's where the Islanders were.
By the 1978-79 season, the country cousins from Long Island had become Cup contenders, surpassing the Rangers in the standings. But a meeting at Madison Square Garden in February of 1979 sent shockwaves through this rivalry.
So is it a chippy hit, dirty hit? I would say, yeah, I think he would admit to that.
There's still, Oregon has a little song, ding, 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 and sucks, and it just goes on and on and on.
If you're a Ranger fan, you're so entrenched, and Islander fans are so entrenched in their team that there's no gray area. People can live across the street, and one can be an Islander fan, one can be a Ranger fan.
By 1979, Islanders country had made a dent into the traditional Rangers fan-base communities of Long Island. In just 7 seasons, Dennis Potvin and the expansion Islanders had become Cup contenders.
Potvin scores.
The Islanders captain came to symbolize the young franchise, but on the night of February 25th, 1979, he also became an enduring symbol of the New York-New York rivalry.
It was a play in the Garden, down towards the end of the ice to my left.
Potvin and Rangers forward Ulf Nielsen were about to be forever entwined in Islanders-Rangers lore.
Ulfie was going for the puck, and Denny was coming from behind.
Dennis went in to hit him, and Ulfie ended up with a fractured ankle.
I would not blame Dennis Potvin for that one.
Did I think it was malicious or premeditated on the part of Dennis? No.
The significance of what happened wasn't as apparent that night as it became the next day. It became larger than life. The hit in the corner.
Nielsen's season was over, but the legacy of Dennis Potvin, public enemy #1, was only just beginning.
Dennis was a villain in our building.
Ulf to this day says it was not a dirty check, but all the Ranger fans thought it was a dirty check, so they started to chant, Potvin sucks.
We're all tribal, we're all clannish, so it's one of our guys that goes down, one of our better guys go down, and, Potvin, you know what?
And the Islanders' future Hall of Famer inspired a new Garden tradition, one that was even immortalized on vinyl. 2 months after the Nielsen-Potvin incident, the two teams met in the NHL Stanley Cup semifinal.
The Islanders and Rangers backyard fight became the talk of New York and front-page news.
The Islanders had finished a whopping 25 points ahead of the Rangers in the Patrick Division and were overwhelming favorites to advance to their first Stanley Cup. That was before Rangers goalie John Davidson had the series of his life.
Johnny Davidson was nothing short of sensational.
Oh, what a stop by Davidson!
The saves that he made, I didn't think were physically possible.
The underdogs from Manhattan stole Game 5 on the island, setting the stage to complete the upset 3 nights later at Madison Square Garden.
Listen to this crowd. Let's go Rangers!
You can just feel the roar of the building, the excitement.
Shot by Greshner.
You won't believe this. Tony Guide is on the phone right now. What is it, 17 seconds left in the Rangers-Islanders game?
There are 17 seconds left, and they're just going for
what I guess is the final face-off of the game.
5 seconds to go. 4 seconds is in front. Rangers will do it. It's on. The Rangers win the final.
I remember walking off the ice and saying to myself, how could this happen?
Look at Dennis Potvin. What a portrait. My God, look at that.
I'll never forget the shot of Dennis Potvin leaning on the boards with his arm down on a knee. It looked exhausted after they had lost to us.
This is a Ranger team that nobody figured to be here, beating the #1 team in hockey.
When we beat the Islanders in 1979 to go to the finals, that was our Stanley Cup. That was our Stanley Cup.
I'm so excited in this one that it's ridiculous. Oh, no!
The Rangers would lose to the Montreal Canadiens in the Cup Finals, extending the club's Cup drought to 39 years and counting. But the semifinal win over their rivals propelled the New Yorkers into Manhattan celebrities.
Those were the days when Studio 54 was going, and the Rangers were a special part of town.
This was a freewheeling, happy bunch of hockey players because they were living the life in New York. Ooh la la, Sassoon.
While the Rangers became the toast of the town, the expansion Islanders became the toast of the NHL, just 8 years into their existence.
Here's Kennelly with Nystrom. The pass to Nystrom.
Bob Nystrom's goal ignited a historic run by the Islanders franchise. The Nassau Coliseum became the center of the hockey universe, the home to Lord Stanley for 4 consecutive seasons. And beating the Rangers became a rite of spring passage, disposing of the Blue Shirts in each of the 1981, 82, and 83 playoffs.
Suddenly, these guys win 4 straight Stanley Cups, more Stanley Cups in a row than the Rangers had won in their entire history.
Feeling their oats, Islanders fans began their own derisive chant towards the Rangers. But this one was not geared for one player, but instead directed at the franchise's long-running cup drought.
They chanted 1940 over and over again. As soon as they got a goal, that would start.
That chant went through us like a hot knife through butter. That's the one thing that we couldn't answer.
They also couldn't answer the Islanders fans' appetite for success.
What bothered me more was the chili chant. It may have been Wendy's at the time. And if the Islanders scored 5 goals, you got free chili the next day.
Score! Wow. Just an embarrassment now.
And of course, they rang it up. They scored 10. So every time we would go back in there, it would be chili, chili. And you're like, oh, God, this sucks.
The suburbs were clearly getting the best of the big city, something the Rangers hoped to change in the 1984 Stanley Cup playoffs.
Game 5 in '84. That was one of the best hockey games I have ever attended.
Patrick in front to Pavlich. Smith the save. They score on the rebound. It's going to count.
I literally thought, this must mean that it's meant to be.
The 4-time Stanley Cup champs entered the 1984 postseason winners of 16 straight playoff series and eyes on a 5th consecutive title. But the team from the big city would challenge the Islanders dynasty in the first round of the playoffs, taking it to a thrilling 5th and deciding game.
In the final seconds of regulation time, the Islanders led 2-1, but the Rangers refused to greet the offseason.
Patrick sets it over the Islander line. Patrick in front to Pavlich. Smith the save. They score on the rebound. It's going to count.
Whenever I see Donnie, I always remind him of that illegal goal that they gave him. And
Pavlich's shot is on the net. He forced Smith to stop it, and there's the tap in. Very close.
It was like, bang, it just took the wind right out of our sails.
I literally thought, this must mean that it's meant to be. We're meant to be.
we thought we had the game won, and the goal counted, and we had to go to overtime.
Brett Sutter comes out of the corner. Hamlin takes the save off him. Here's Morrow into the faceoff circle. He scores! Kenny Morrow! The Islanders will advance to the next round of the Stanley Cup playoffs.
We were that close to beating a really, really good Islander team.
You know, I remember Dave Maloney crying his eyes out in the locker room after the game, so emotional, sitting next to Ron Greshner. The Rangers might have been the second best team in the league, but couldn't get over the hump of beating the Islanders.
Just defy them to think that they were the better team in the series, but they are. They get to go on, and we have to go the golf courses, I guess.
That was the one thing about the Islanders, they always found a way. Ken Morrill, you're done.
The Islanders would advance to a 5th straight cup, amassing an NHL record 19 straight playoff series wins. But the dynasty would end to the hands of Wayne Gretzky and the emerging Edmonton Oilers.
And there is the scene on the ice here at the Northlands Coliseum.
Despite being dethroned, the Islanders had established themselves as a premier NHL franchise. But off the ice, they still suffered an identity crisis in New York.
This had been a Manhattan team. If this was Gotham's own team, the Islanders would have been immortalized.
We had accomplished something that they hadn't done in 40 years. You know, here we are, we're an upstart team. We started in '72. In 8 years, we won a cup.
And by the decade of the 90s, the Cup quest continued for the Rangers. By 1994, it was an astounding 54 years since their last title in 1940. But led by Marc Messier, the Rangers won the President's Trophy for the NHL's best regular season record. Their reward for finishing first in the East, a first-round matchup with the 8th place Islanders.
If you don't beat the Islanders, now not only do you not win the Cup, but if the godforsaken Islanders beat you, you're really in. I might as well pack my bags.
The Rangers' quest to end the jinx of 1940 would start against an old nemesis, Ron Hextall, the former Flyer who was now the Islanders' netminder.
Drop pass for Messier from the sharp angle. Score! Kovalev breaking in. All alone. Score!
It was an utter mismatch from beginning to end.
Oh, my goodness. They're shredding Ron Hextall.
We ended up sweeping them in 4 games. We outscored them 22-3. And I recall talking to Steve Thomas after the game. He goes, I've never been in a series where my team never touched the puck.
The New York Rangers have swept the Battle of New York.
1994, first round of the playoffs. That's where the Rangers took off. It was a 4-game sweep, and the Rangers went from there.
The Rangers are Stanley Cup champions!
It took 54 years, but the jinx of 1940 was vanished forever.
10 minutes after they win the Cup, there's Adam Graves on camera leading the 1940 champ.
1940! The chant of 1940 has gone up from the crowd. I'd love to hear it one more time.
Still to come, one rivalry chant is gone, but another still remains.
Potvin sucks.
Potvin sucks!
I think it's time to move on.
The waiting is over! The New York Rangers are the Stanley Cup champions! No more 1940, it's gone!
The Rangers' first championship in 54 years ended one jinx and quieted a long-enduring chant from Long Island. The echoes of 1940, now a distant memory. But where one chant went away, another remained a mainstay. Dennis Potvin retired after the 1988 season, but Rangers fans would not forgive or forget the controversial play from February 1979 with New York forward Ulf Nielsen.
I remember being at the Garden for Dennis Potvin's last game at Madison Square Garden, and it was at the national anthem. Kept shaking my head. I said, what could one guy have done?
He hasn't played there in, what, 20 years, 25 years? There's still, the organ has this little song, ding, 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 Potvin sucks.
I hear the whistle, and I hear it every game, at least twice or 3 times a game, so it's a pretty cool chant.
Potvin sucks!
I remember doing a story with Dennis, and he said, and I was at a Mets-Phillies game one day, and the chant starts in Veterans Stadium.
I've been at Met games in Philadelphia, football games in Philadelphia, Washington, Boston, games involving New York teams, where all of a sudden you'll hear the whistle up in the stands and then Potvin blank.
I actually was watching a match at Wimbledon, and that chant came out.
It happens all the time throughout the game.
It still gets me the Potvin chants. The Potvin sucks all the time. I think it's time to move on.
Dennis has a quick response and a quick quip about that. He said, no, it's not Potvin sucks. He says Potvin's cups, 4 of them.
While Dennis Potvin continues to provide a linchpin for this rivalry, the intensity on the ice never wavered.
Cloutier really throwing it at shallow. And now Cloutier challenging the Islanders bench. Oh, Simon just smacked Holloway with a stick.
And Holloway still down on the ice.
By the 2013 season, the next generation for the Rangers and Islanders began a new chapter of big city versus suburbia, and it came to a head with both teams battling for a playoff berth on April 13th at the Nassau Coliseum.
It was such an electric atmosphere. Ranger sweaters, Islander sweaters.
Everywhere we went today, everybody's talking about Rangers and Islanders tonight.
The teams were battling for a playoff spot. They were battling for a position.
Good save by Lundqvist.
Lundqvist played terrific, and Nabokov played terrific. We were hitting posts.
Shot off the post. Save Nabokov.
This has been a tremendous game.
One goal seemed like it was going to win the game.
And this one goes to overtime.
You know, just 4-on-4, just kind of saw him carrying up the ice.
Now Derek Brassard.
He made a great saucer pass kind of behind the D-man and shot it far side, top corner.
Girardi goes deep. Girardi shoots. He scores! He scores! Rangers win!
Both teams would qualify for the postseason for the first time since 2007, marking a renaissance in New York area hockey. And now Long Island and Manhattan will battle in the ballpark in the Bronx, where John Tavares and Henrik Lundqvist take over the house that Ruth built.
It's something we've been talking about for years. You know, how cool it would be to get an opportunity to play an outdoor game at Yankee Stadium.
It will be a remarkable setting for a remarkable rivalry, where a turf war has ensued now for over 40 years, and a controversial moment is never forgotten, where upsets are celebrated and a dynasty is embraced. They share a fan base, but will always be worlds apart. The Rangers and Islanders, New York NHL rivals.